On the afternoon of December 26, 1900, the lighthouse tender Hesperus approached a remote island west of Scotland. The crew expected 3 men to be waiting at the landing. Instead, the island appeared deserted. High above the Atlantic stood the Flannan Isles lighthouse. Its tower was intact. But nobody answered the ship's horn. Nobody came down to meet the relief boat. Captain James Harvey ordered a rocket fired toward the island. Still, there was no movement. Relief keeper Joseph Mòr climbed ashore and made his way up the steep path alone. The compound gate and entrance were closed. Inside, the beds had not been slept in. The kitchen was empty, the fire was cold, and the clock had stopped. The station's 3 keepers, James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald McArthur, were gone. Mòr returned to the Hesperus with the news. 3 volunteers went back with him so the lighthouse could be placed in operation again. Then they began searching. They crossed the island from end to end. They inspected the paths, the cliffs, and both landing places. There were no bodies. No clear footprints. No message explaining why the men had left. And because the station had no radio connection to the mainland, the silence may already have lasted for 11 days. The Flannan Isles are 7 exposed rocks in the Outer Hebrides, about 20 miles west of the Isle of Lewis. The largest, Eilean Mòr, rises abruptly from the North Atlantic. There are no permanent residents. In 1900, the lighthouse keepers were the island's only human inhabitants. The light itself was new. It had first been illuminated in December 1899, only a year before the disappearance. Keeping it operational required constant attention. The men trimmed and maintained the equipment, recorded weather conditions, handled supplies, and watched for damage around the landings. Principal keeper James Ducat had a wife and 4 children. Thomas Marshall served as second assistant. Donald McArthur was an occasional keeper, temporarily replacing another man who was ill. They were not thrill-seekers exploring an abandoned island. They were working men performing a dangerous public service. The final ordinary station records ended on December 15. A vessel passing the islands around midnight later reported that the light could not be seen. But that report did not reach the Northern Lighthouse Board before the Hesperus discovered the empty station on December 26. That gap helped transform an accident investigation into a legend. Over the following decades, retellings acquired irresistible details: a meal supposedly abandoned halfway through, an overturned chair, and a private log describing one keeper crying while another prayed during a supernatural storm. Some versions even claimed the final entry read, "Storm ended. Sea calm. God is over all." Those dramatic passages do not appear in the contemporary official investigation. The overturned chair and interrupted meal are not part of Joseph Mòr's report. They belong to later storytelling, not to the surviving evidence. And the real evidence was unsettling enough. The eastern landing was orderly. Its ropes remained in place. On the western side, the scene was different. An old wooden box used to hold mooring and landing ropes had disappeared. Some of its ropes had been washed out and lay scattered on the rocks near the crane. Iron railings along the passage had been pulled from their foundations and broken. Another handrail had been carried away completely. A lifebuoy fixed to railings along the path was also missing. The ropes that had secured it had not been deliberately untied. Fragments of canvas remained caught beneath them, suggesting that the sea had torn the buoy apart and carried it away. This damage was found roughly 110 feet above sea level. The men's clothing offered another clue. Mòr reported that Marshall had gone out wearing sea boots and oilskins. Ducat's sea boots were gone, along with the old waterproof coat he normally used. But McArthur's usual outdoor coat remained inside. Mòr believed that McArthur may have gone out in his shirt sleeves. That small detail suggests urgency. Perhaps 2 men went down to inspect or secure the western landing. Perhaps McArthur saw danger from above and rushed out to warn or help them. But the records cannot tell us the order in which they left, or what each man saw. Superintendent Robert Muirhead arrived on the island on December 29. After examining the damage and interviewing those involved, he reached a grim conclusion. The keepers had probably remained on duty until around dinner time on December 15. They then went down toward the western landing to secure the rope box or inspect storm damage. An exceptionally large sea rushed up the face of the cliff, rose above the men, and swept them away as the water fell back toward the Atlantic. Waves do not need to resemble a wall of water approaching from a distance. Around steep cliffs, a powerful swell can surge vertically, funnel through rock, and reach far above the ordinary waterline. The broken railings and missing equipment showed that extraordinary force had struck the landing. The official explanation is convincing, but incomplete. It does not explain exactly why all three experienced keepers were exposed at the same time. Regulations and good practice should have kept at least one man near the light. It does not tell us whether a first wave trapped one or two men and drew the third outside. And without bodies or witnesses, it cannot prove the sequence of events. Other theories followed: a fight between the men, murder followed by suicide, abduction by a passing vessel, even sea monsters and supernatural intervention. None is supported by physical evidence from the island. The documented story is quieter, and perhaps more frightening. 3 experienced men stepped outside to protect the equipment that helped keep other sailors safe. The sea reached a place that should have been beyond it. No distress signal could be sent. And by the time anyone understood that the light had gone dark, the island had been empty for 11 days. The lighthouse still stands on Eilean Mòr. It was automated in 1971. James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald McArthur were never found.